and gals, welcome to another episode of the Red, White, and the Blues podcast. I'm Daniel, and I'm joined, as always, by my man, Prochacho Nacho, who is feeling slightly under the weather tonight. But he is here because he is a trooper, and he is a real man, and he will power through this episode. Yeah. Jason, how you doing, man?
Buenos nachos.
Hey!
It's good to see you, Daniel.
It's good to see you too.
Bro Taco. Sorry, Buenos Nachos was one of the quotes from one of those really strange wrestling movies that we watched during international movie break. So
yes,
yeah. If you're new here, over the international breaks, Daniel and I watch movies. So if you didn't catch the last episode, we won't be talking about Chelsea tonight.
Shame on you. Shame on you for not listening to the last episode.
Yeah, that's always good, just shaming our 10 viewers.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's
shaming the new viewers? You're shaming
the new viewers. Maybe the new viewers. I don't know. Whatever. I mean, look, we're glad you're here. You're glad you chose to join us tonight, all 10 of you. Today, whenever you're listening, watching this, whatever you're doing.
Whatever you're doing, wherever you are,
whatever
you are,
on your ride into work, working out, doing whatever, maybe we put you to sleep at night because we're that boring. I mean,
we're here for you.
We're here to help you sleep better. I wish I had somebody to help me sleep better.
Baby. Add us to the Calm app.
Oh man. So if you're new here, during the international breaks, Jason and me take a break from Chelsea. So if you tuned in for Chelsea news this week, we're not going to talk about the beef between the fans. We're not going to talk about all the other crap that's going on at the club, just because everybody needs a break from that. And we're here to be your break. We're here to give you just like the player. Well, some players get a break during the international break. We're here to give you, the fans, a break. So instead of talking about Chelsea and the state of the club and how negative that is, we want to brighten your day up or brighten your night up or whatever it is. And we like to review movies during the international movie break. So this is the first time we've ever done this. We did a double feature thanks to Jason and his epic scheming on the last episode of the podcast. I don't know.
I baited you into suggesting it.
He put it in my mind, and I just blurted it out. It's crazy. But two episodes. I don't know when the other one will drop this week, but the first one here right now, we're going to do the Iron Claw, the story of the Von Erichs. A famous wrestling family. This was a Jason's choice, but I supported 100% because I've been wanting to watch the movie as well. So it was a great choice, Jason. FYI, we always fail to do this, but I'm gonna remember to do it this time. FYI, there will be spoilers in the episode. So if you haven't seen the movie and you want to see the movie, you probably don't want to listen to this. As much as that affects our viewership, so be it. I would rather not ruin movies for people, but there will be spoilers. So there's that. I don't know. How do you want to start off, Jason? What do you want to do first?
I don't know. Did you tell your thoughts about the movie?
You want my honest thoughts about the movie?
I want your thoughts first. Yes, honest thoughts.
I need a couple of Xanax after I watch that movie. That is one of the most depressing movies.
Yeah.
Like, it is just depressing. It's sad. Yeah. Like, it is sad. It is just a sad, depressing movie. And I did not go in expecting that because I love wrestling. I was like, this is going to be awesome. It's a wrestling movie. I love wrestling. Like, I love The Wrestler. Yeah. I love Ready to Rumble, which we will review in the next episode. I love wrestling movies. So, and that's not to say this was a bad movie. I mean, it's literally just the life story of the Von Erich family, and it is just a tragedy. Like, there's no other way around it. It's just a tragedy, and it was depressing. And it was sort of a shock to me because I didn't expect it to be depressing.
Same. Yeah, I didn't know that much about the Von Erich family.
Me either.
I mean, I'm a fan of a very particular window of wrestling because that's just when we were in high school and we were into it. And it just didn't go beyond that window. Like, so on either side of that, I just don't really know the history of wrestling or anything. So that part I think they did really well with kind of showing because there used to be a lot of federations, and I don't really
There
know
was
that much about them.
territories. There was
Territories.
territories.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
before now there's just two, well, three if you count TNA. I mean, really, it's AEW, WWE, and
Yeah.
TNA. Like the
Yeah.
three now. Back then, when we were in high school, it was WCW and WWF.
Yeah.
So, but back then, it was like territories.
So, but Fritz von Erich, right?
Yeah,
I guess, like
Jack.
Jack, yeah, like his whole persona in the ring was to play like a heel, I guess. And so he like took on this kind of like I read somewhere that he was like a Nazi heel.
Yeah, he was a Nazi when he
So
started out. He was
yeah,
a Nazi heel.
so he took on like this. I guess his grandmother was German, so he took on
Yeah,
like her last name or something. So that's where the Von Erich family comes in. But their real last name is like Atkinson
yeah.
or something like that. And so, and he kind of started. I guess he started like this federation, like world class championship wrestling or something like that. It's like
It was the
WCCW,
yeah
and it was
WCCW.
part of the NWA, I
Yeah,
guess, at the time. But yeah, it's like this wrestling territory where they kind of owned the Dallas, Texas area,
right. Hmm.
and were well regarded because the Von Erichs were just a big family name at that
Hmm.
time, and then they would wrestle personalities within the NWA, and they could win like the world championship belt for the
Yeah,
NWA essentially.
yeah.
And I think they had their own belts, all that.
They
Anyway,
did. Yeah,
so there's what's crazy about like to go back to what you said about this just being a tragedy because I think we both read up on the Von Erich family
yeah.
after we watched
Hmm.
the movie.
Hmm.
And what's crazy about it is there's 6 Von Erich kids, all boys.
Hmm. Hmm.
One of them dies when he's 6.
Yep. Kind of electrocuted in a puddle of water.
Yeah, Jack Jr. dies when
Crazy.
he's 6,
Jack Jr.
right? And then you have I'm probably going to get them out of order, but you have Kevin, Carrie, Dave, and Mike. Those are the kids that are in the movie. But
Yeah, and
there's
then
a whole
yeah,
other kid that
yeah.
they left out of the movie
Hmm.
because the story's so tragic and the
Yeah.
movie is already so sad. The director said nobody would have made the movie if we included the 6th brother, Chris.
It's crazy.
So Dave, and in the movie you kind of go through this ebb and flow of like I don't know, and they really paint the dad Fritz as like
Hmm.
kind of an asshole. Like, and I think like
Yeah.
history still is like kind of out on him, but I think most people agree like the dude only cared about one thing, and he kind of forced his sons into that one
Yep.
thing, and that was wrestling. And if they weren't in there, and even early on, the dad's like, I have a ranking system. And
Yes.
right now, the ranking system is boom, boom, boom,
Hmm.
boom, boom. And he's like, but that changes. That can change.
Hmm.
He
Yep.
goes, you can work your way up or down. And you see that play out in very real ways
You
about
do.
who the
Yeah.
dad, because the dad's the promoter at like by the time the kids are grown up and they've entered the wrestling world. And you can
Hmm.
see him like toying around with that. Like one kid who you thought was going to get a shot doesn't get a shot at the belt because the dad thinks the other kid was better on the mic or something.
Right.
Or
Hmm.
like Zac Efron, who I think does a great job
Yes.
of playing Kevin Von Erich. Like
All the acting was
true, yeah.
fantastic in this movie.
I do want to talk about one
No.
acting performance.
Uh
I
oh.
think you know who I'm going to talk about, but we'll talk about that in a second. But like anyway, you see that play out. But yeah, like the dad's kind of controlling the strings of like who gets to go up against who's going up for the belts in the NWA. There's like kind of this like overarching like, do you think I did enough in that match to like go up? Like, and he's like, I don't know. You stayed on the ground a little too long there,
Yeah.
so you might not get to go. But your brother was great on the mic, and then so
Yeah.
Dave gets the title shot where Zac Efron's Dave, yeah, and the guy who played Dave was great too, but like he gets the title shot and not Kevin at the time, which is pretty wild. But then Dave dies of a ruptured intestine while he's doing like
was it a
Oh.
ruptured intestine now?
according to
According to the
Wikipedia.
movie,
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, did you read all of Wikipedia though?
No,
Because
it
Brett,
was some condition with the intestines though.
yeah, well, Bret Hart and Mick Foley are both
Oh,
quoted in their autobiographies as saying that it was drugs and that the guy that found him
yeah.
flushed all the drugs down the toilet before
Wow.
the authorities got there. So
Okay.
there's, but the Von Erichs have always said that it was then a ruptured intestines.
Okay.
But
Well,
there's
they do
wrestlers that
show.
say drugs. So
Okay, they do
I don't
show,
know.
and here's the thing. Here's why I'd be inclined to believe that because I did see Bret Hart like speak
Yeah.
recently,
Mm-hmm.
and that dude has an amazing memory, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Like because the things he can remember about specific matches and what happened in a specific match and how he can recall those things at a specific time on a specific date in a specific arena at a specific ring and in the way he does it. I don't know. Maybe I'd be inclined to believe Bret Hart.
Let me correct myself. It was Ric Flair and Mick Foley, not Bret Hart.
I don't trust Ric Flair
Sorry.
at all. That dude. No, I'm just kidding. Mick Foley's
He's
also got some issues. If it was
I
Bret
don't
Hart,
know.
I would
That's
trust him.
that's
If it was Ric
Mrs.
Flair,
Foley's baby. That's Mrs. Foley's baby boy, Jason. We were talking about here. It's Mrs. Foley's baby boy.
but anyway, Dave dies. They do the movie does show Dave and Carrie as the family is growing into their wrestling personas, getting more and more into drug use.
Yes. What
So
I think that's like it's the 80s. Like cocaine is rampant.
yeah,
Like
sure,
I mean like it's like the underbelly of the wrestling world. Like everybody knows like painkillers, drugs,
yeah,
alcohol abuse is all a thing back in the day. And it probably still is with some wrestlers, but probably not to the extent that it was back
yeah,
then. Because I mean, you even look in the '90s, it was a thing. Like with like Shawn Michaels, Scott Hall, all of them that are come out
right,
of drugs and stuff like that.
yeah,
So it was I'm very inclined to believe that they were probably
yeah,
abusing some form of drugs, whatever
for
it
sure.
was.
And Carrie is played by Jeremy Allen White, who is from The
Yes,
Bear,
in
who
the greatest show
does
ever. In the
yeah
yeah
does amazing in the role,
yeah.
like really
Hmm.
great. It shows like so. His story is after Dave dies, he gets the title shot against Ric Flair and wins the world
Yeah,
championship.
wait. Can we talk about how he was decided? I have a question about that.
Okay,
So they're sitting at to set the scene for the fans out there. I want Jason's perspective on this.
yeah,
They're sitting on their porch at their I'm assuming after their brother's like at the funeral after Dave has died. And it's like they're just sitting there, the dad and the three boys, and they're sitting there, talking. And they're talking. Then the dad's like, "Well, somebody's got to fight for the title." And then Kevin is like, "I'll do it," and Kerry's like, "No, I'll do it." And the dad's like, "Well, the only fair way to decide this is if you flip a coin." Do you think
yeah.
the coin was two headed?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't notice.
I didn't notice either. He just said heads or tails, and I don't know. I think he wanted Kerry to fight him, and
Is that like a
so
fan
he's like,
theory that the coin was two
"No,
headed?
that's just
Oh,
a
okay.
Daniel theory.
I
That's just
I
something I
mean
came up with because the dad's an
the
asshole, and that's what
the
he would
dad.
do. Like
I
to
wouldn't put it
to
past the
to
dad.
to make it go
Yeah,
in the way that he wants it to go, to make who he wants to fight for the title and who he wants, to go next. And like in his eyes, I think Kerry had already had his turn, so to speak. So
yeah,
or not
yeah.
Kerry, sorry,
Kevin.
Kevin had already had his turn.
Yeah,
Kerry was due now. So I don't know. It was just
yeah,
a thought I had while I was watching the movie.
because Kevin after Jack Jr. is the oldest brother.
Hmm.
And so it was always kind of it's just assumed that he's kind of earned
Right.
his place. But yeah, they
Hmm.
do decide it on a coin flip, and it goes to Kerry, and they don't show that match. They just kind of
Which I thought was a
like,
travesty. I thought that was a like I don't know why
yeah,
they
yeah,
didn't show that. I don't know if it was because it would have taken like because it was at a big outside arena. Like maybe it was just too much for them to like
sure,
production wise to put
hmm
together.
yeah,
That's the only thing I can think. Uh, but I was a little irked by that they didn't show that match. I was like, well, this
yeah,
is like because at the beginning of the movie, part of the reason the dad is so hard on the kids is because the one thing that he never obtained was the NWA title.
exactly,
And then this, was one of his kids. He's living vicariously through his kids throughout most of this movie, and then
Yeah.
his kid wins the title, and we don't even see that.
Yeah.
So
I
I
know.
was sort of
It's
like,
wild.
okay, whatever. But
Well, it kind of shows Carrie at the kitchen table after he won, right? And it's just
yeah,
like
yes, he's got
Kevin
the title
says,
laid out there.
"Hey, you did great," you know.
Yeah,
And Carrie's like, "I just need to go for a ride to clear my head." And he'd clearly
yeah.
been drinking. Carrie had, and Kevin was like, "Do you think that's a good idea?" And then Carrie goes for a ride on his motorcycle, and then the next thing you
Hmm.
see is basically Carrie got his foot amputated.
Him turning the corner in the kitchen. Now
Yeah,
it's where the movie was wrong in this instance, though,
yeah,
because that was 2 years later that happened
right. They play
after
with
he won the
time.
title. Yeah, they played with time in the movie a little bit.
Because they
So
play with time too when they sell the C or the WCCW to
yeah,
Jerry Jarrett as well. Because that
hmm
happens a little bit later as well
yeah,
than it
and it
does in the
wasn't,
movie.
and it was Jack that sold it, not Kevin.
Exactly, exactly. Because
So that
Kevin
was
was
a little
against the
bit
sell. Yeah,
right. So it was a little weird that they chose to do it. I don't know. I would like to. I don't know. I didn't read too much about the movie per se, like from the
mm-hmm.
director and his point of view about why they did things a certain way. But I mean, I don't think it necessarily took anything away from the story. Them showing, he
Yeah.
had one leg like the way they did it. So I don't know.
Well, what's cool about so Kerry goes on to have a pretty successful career,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
even joins like the WWF at the time,
Hmm.
and kept his uh like amputation a secret the
Yeah.
entire time, which is pretty
Which
cool.
is just that is cool, and then it's cool on top of that the fact that the dude wrestled with like like with
Yeah,
no ankle, just a prosthetic, which is amazing, and to still be able to perform. And this is like the '80s guys. This isn't like
yeah, yeah,
nowadays where we have the 2024, we have all the medical technology that we have. But the dude literally had a plastic foot,
yeah,
and he just laced it on there. Like it's
yeah,
just crazy to think like the pain and that's probably led to a lot of his drug problems because he's
yeah,
probably in a ton of pain from that.
exactly.
Like doing that night in and night out, that couldn't have felt good.
Yeah, yeah, and they kind of show that a little bit because
Hmm.
Kerry is obviously wanting to get back in the ring, and then he is
Yeah.
training with Kevin.
Hmm.
A little bit before that, though, Mike they convince Mike, who is kind of like the sensitive soul, like the kid
Hmm.
who isn't as like bulky and doesn't care about working out as much, like wants to just play in a band and wants to be musical.
Yep.
Like they kind of show them forcing or the family kind
Yeah.
of like getting him into the ring and like
Hmm.
becoming like part of the family wrestling tradition.
Yeah.
And there's even this one moment where the family is like eating dinner and the mom,
Yeah.
who both parents are like emotionally unavailable this entire movie, because there's another
Oh
point
God.
like in the movie
Yes.
where Kevin is like, "Hey mom, can I talk to you for a second?" And she's like, "Oh, that's what your brothers are for," you
Yeah.
know.
I'm
And
like,
just like,
what?
yeah, it's wild. But then at the picnic scene, the mom is even saying like, "Hey, when I met your dad, he was like classically trained and he would play me
Hmm.
like the most beautiful things, like musically." And like Mike is like, "Why?" And he's like, "Yeah, but I gave that up because sports was the way and I chose correctly."
Yeah.
And like Mike is like kind of heartbroken because he could bond with his dad in this way, but his dad chooses
Yeah.
not to. But
Right.
anyway, Mike is like, he has a freak accident. He gets his first match, and he kind of has this like, well, he gets a shoulder injury, and then
It
they do
wouldn't. Yeah.
surgery. It was kind of
Yeah.
routine, I guess. He just
Yeah.
fell off of a drop kick, and then
Yeah.
they do surgery on the shoulder, and then the freak thing happens where he gets like toxic shock syndrome,
Yeah.
and he gets brain damage from it, goes into a
Hmm.
coma,
Yep.
and then is like kind of not the same. And I was reading a little bit about that, and apparently like right after he came out of the coma, they did the press conference with him, and they showed the press conference in the movie,
Yeah.
but like in real life, they right after the coma, they did a press conference with him and were basically like, nope, he'll be back in the ring soon for like some
Hmm.
event that was coming up. And I was like, oh my god, like guys, like be cool. Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? He just came out of a coma.
Yeah.
That's
I
wild.
think I felt worse for Mike more than anybody,
Mm-hmm.
just because like you could tell like he didn't want to be a wrestler.
Yeah.
Like he was more interested in like the arts, and then like if you read a little more, and there was a one off line in the movie when that same scene that you're talking about where they were at the table where he's like, "Oh, Dad, did you see the new camera angles
Mm-hmm.
at
Oh
the
yeah.
wrestling event?" And that's what he wanted to be, was the cameraman and a musician.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like he had no interest in being in the ring, but I think he sort of felt forced once Dave died. Like it was
Yeah.
like they wanted him to replace Dave,
Yeah.
but he didn't really want to, but he felt pressure from the family, so he sort of did it. And it just like
Yep.
I felt bad for him because you could tell that he just wasn't. And then to suffer that freak accident, so it's
Yeah.
crazy. I don't know. Always, I felt worse for Mike than anybody else. I think in the
Yeah.
story.
And then tragically, Mike uh, takes his own life.
Yep.
So that's rough. Somewhere along the way, that's rough. That sounded very reductionary, but like,
hmm
yeah. Anyway, the family deals with it the way the family deals with it. Then they kind of deal with it in that way. They're just kind of like, ah, like Kevin seems to be the only one that really deals with it, in a way that you would expect the family to deal with it.
Yeah.
So, but the family at large, um, I don't know. They don't seem like a family who's very open,
No.
and that goes into the last scene of the movie. But I'm having trouble remembering chronologically where Kevin got his shot with Ric Flair.
Kevin was
Like,
at the beginning. Like it was.
no,
I don't know what year it was.
no. But he fought Ric Flair. Remember, he does the Iron Claw, and then like
Oh yeah,
gets
yeah, yeah. Toward
gets
the end.
disqualified.
Yeah, I guess disqualified. I don't remember where that is.
No,
I
I
don't
think that was
like.
probably like after Mike, and then
Yeah, it was
before
after.
Carrie.
Yeah, because
Spoilers.
Kerry was there. Kerry was
Yes.
there, sitting with his dad in the chair. So Kerry was there. Yeah, but it was after Mike had died. Yeah.
Yeah, and they were both extremely disappointed that
hmm
Kevin got disqualified. And then Kerry goes on to do WWF, and then eventually he's going through some stuff. Calls Mike or calls Kevin. Kevin
hmm
calls his dad. His dad's like, whatever. And
Yeah.
then Kerry shoots himself in the
hmm
family front yard,
Front yard. Yeah, essentially the front yard.
and
Yeah.
that actually really happened.
Yeah.
Um.
Yeah, that's accurate.
So
And it's
yeah,
interesting that this is where Bret Hart comes in. He said that Kerry told him 3 months prior to that what he was going to do, and
wow.
that he felt like his brothers were calling him home, which is a scene in the movie that
Yeah.
I don't know if you had issues with that scene, but I did. So
Oh, yeah. It's a little. Yeah, yeah. I don't.
I didn't
I
feel
don't
like
know.
it fit.
Felt
It
out of
didn't fit
place.
the
Yeah.
movie to me. It did, and then like I didn't like. Also, didn't like the fact that Dave was just wearing a world title. Like he never
Yeah.
won anything. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
why?
Yeah.
Like I can understand if he was champion and like
Right.
died the champion. Like why did he have the belt? I don't
Yeah.
know. I just thought that
It
scene
was a
was a
weird
little
scene.
out of place, and like I'm like, okay, whatever. I
Yeah,
don't know.
I agree.
Whatever.
And then there's some moments where Kevin is like not hanging out with his family because there's
Yeah.
they mentioned the curse of the Von Erich name and how tragedy
hmm
strikes, and like obviously as his brothers are dying, Kevin is very he's married at this point. He has a kid, and he's
Yeah.
very like, I don't want you to get it. And his wife, who's played
Yeah.
by Lily James, who's a great actress as well, and
hmm
and and she's like, yeah, but dude, I need you home. Like, we're your
Yeah.
family. Like, we can help take care of you. And
Yeah.
I think like they do a good job of like, and Zac Efron does a good job of playing this like, hey, I kind of don't know how to be taken care of in this way, and also I
hmm
don't want like you to get the disease of the family curse, because
hmm
he doesn't even want his kid to have the Von Erich name.
Right.
So
Yeah.
so he's like, hey, my legal name is Atkinson, so please,
hmm
like when we name our son, he's telling the people their name will be Atkinson. He's telling the
Yeah.
hospital. So I thought they did a good job with that, and then it kind of ends with him selling the WCCW to Jerry Jarrett, and him and his dad kind of like come to blows on some of that, and his dad's like, if you
hmm
sell, you never come into this house again.
Yeah.
Um, and so they don't really like. I don't remember them showing his parents being estranged, but I don't remember them actually like concluding anything with that. They just kind of
They
showed a
didn't.
cell.
They yeah,
Yeah. And
pretty much the
then
end of it.
and then there's a sweet moment at the end where Jack or Kevin is kind of crying as his sons are
Hmm.
playing and his sons come over and Zac Efron's apologizing to them and he's like, "I'm sorry, men don't cry." And or boys don't cry or something.
Yeah.
You're not
No, he
supposed to
said
see
men
me
don't cry.
cry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And then the kids are like, what are you talking about? We cry all the time, And then
Yeah.
they kind of have like this nice moment, and then
Hmm.
it's at the very end. It shows that like um, Kevin and his wife have been married for 40 years. They bought a
Hmm.
ranch. All their kids came back to live with them on the
Yep.
ranch, and they
And like,
had like they all had 13 children.
yeah.
So they have
Yep.
like this crazy huge family. So I guess they
Hmm.
broke the curse. So
Yep.
anyway, and then Chris gets left out entirely of this.
Yeah. And
Chris Von
Kirst
Erich.
isn't. Yeah. Which I was like, when I was researching it, after I watched it or whatever, I was like, wait, there's another brother? And then I was like,
Yeah,
oh, wait, he killed himself too? Like,
yeah,
what is this? Like,
yeah.
I mean, it's crazy.
I was reading some Reddit comments, and some people were saying it's even more tragic that Chris wasn't in the movie because Chris, I guess, was one of the younger kid or was the youngest kid.
He was the youngest. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, and he just all he wanted to do was be like his brothers, and
Hmm.
all he wanted to do was be a part of everything,
Yeah.
and even the movie doesn't let him be a part. And so
Well, the thing
I was like,
is
oh my
yeah,
god, that's tragic.
yeah, he had like really bad asthma apparently, and like a brittle bone disease
Oh
that wouldn't
yeah,
let him like. I mean, he did. They said he did wrestle for a little while, but it was never like he never could get any traction because he kept getting injured and stuff
yeah.
like that. So, and it's just like, and that's part of the reason why he killed
God, man.
himself is because he couldn't do the one thing like you said he wanted to do, which was be like his brothers and wrestle. And
Yeah.
apparently, he was really close to, I believe, Mike too.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
and that apparently Mike's death really messed with him.
Ugh.
So it's
I it is like it's just insane that it's a real story, and it's
yeah,
insane that like that. Yeah, I don't know. I can totally see where the director is like, "Oh my gosh, if I add another suicide in this movie,"
yeah,
I think his words were, "This isn't going to get made." Like nobody
yeah.
in their right mind would make the movie, and I totally see that. But it does
I
feel a
get
little
that.
dishonoring to Chris's
Yeah.
memory to just kind of give him a little at the very end. I think in the credits it just says that this movie's dedicated to the 5 Von Erich kids who died, and it lists their names.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just I don't know. It's head scratching that all of that can happen to one
Yeah.
family. Like it blew my mind,
It
and it
did.
made me feel incredibly sad. And then I was felt incredibly happy for Kevin, who just
Yeah.
seems like a genuinely good person in
Yeah.
real life. And
Hmm.
it made me feel happy that the curse did break for him, and
Yeah.
that he got this huge family that all lives with him because they kind of
Hmm.
mentioned that earlier in the movie. So yeah,
Yeah.
man,
He never seemed to get into like the alcohol abuse and the
yeah,
drugs. Like, and it's probably because he got married and had a girl, which the crazy thing is all the other brothers were married too. They just didn't
right.
talk about it.
They don't
Like
talk about it at
Carrie
all.
has,
Yeah,
yeah, Carrie has 2 kids. I think Mike was married for like less than a year and got divorced or something like
yeah, yeah.
that. And then the other Dave was married too. I don't think he didn't have any kids though. I think he had one, but it was a stillborn, which is
Oh wow,
even like adds to the story even more that they're just freaking cursed family.
that's
But yeah,
amazing.
it isn't. But that seemed to be the differentiating factor. And like Carrie never got into like at least they didn't show it. Like Kevin
Hmm.
never got into the drugs. He never got into alcohol abuse or anything like that. And it seemed to be because he had, at least the way the movie portrayed it, a strong woman by his side. To sort
Yeah,
of help him guide through that. Whereas the other ones, I don't know. I mean, they just didn't show any of their girls apparently.
I guess they didn't think they were important. I don't know.
Apparently, I don't
The
know.
and so like the movie, what's crazy is that I do think on some levels it is effective, And
Hmm.
I do think like trying to make a movie about the Von Erich family is like a crazy process because of
Hmm.
just the tragedy that follows them around.
Yeah.
But I still do feel like it leaves a little bit to be desired. Like it doesn't fully explore things,
Oh
or
yeah.
and it. I guess part of that feeling I have is because they leave out key moments of stories, or
Hmm.
they left out an entire brother.
Yeah.
Like I'm like,
Entire brother. Yeah.
include this guy for the love of God, please.
Yeah.
Like that's all he wanted his whole life, and you left
Yeah.
him out
Him out.
of the
Yep.
whole movie.
Yep.
God, man, I do feel so bad for that family, and then I was,
Yeah.
and then it did make me happy to see the picture at the end for Kevin, who
Yeah.
like I was kind of looking at some of the interviews, and he was saying how much he just admired like Zac Efron and the other guys who played his brothers. Um, and I think that they wrote the script and then presented it to real life Kevin.
You would think
Um,
they would have to,
and
like, to
and
get. Yeah.
yeah, so he's obviously cool with it, and I think that he feels like the movie is pretty good, or at least honoring. So I mean, if that's the case, then who am I to think
Yeah.
anything that I think about the movie? So as long as Kevin's fine with it, then I'm fine with it because he genuinely does seem just like a genuine, just like authentic
Yeah.
human good dude.
For
And
sure.
so I was at least happy that the curse broke for him. Like, so I think my favorite moment of the movie was probably seeing that picture of him um, in his family and just being like, oh my God, he was so worried about the curse in the movie.
Hmm.
And like, he got his family. And
Yeah.
I am sure he would want his brothers back, but
Yeah.
like
For sure.
at least the curse isn't still affecting him. So that's kind of what I'm happy about.
Yep.
Uh,
I do want to say that Sportatorium might be one of the best names for a venue ever.
pretty awesome.
That's where
Pretty
they
awesome.
wrestled. That's where all their most of their shows were with the Von
Yeah.
Erichs out of with WCCW was called. It was in the Dallas Sportatorium. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's just a damn
It's
good name.
legit. Also, pretty badass to wrestle barefoot, which is what one of
Yes.
Kevin Von Erich's trademarks.
Yep.
Like,
Hmm.
pretty badass. Like
Yeah.
when I was watching him like get thrown out of the ring and he's like just barefoot on the concrete, I was like, oh
Hmm.
my God, how are you doing this? So yeah, it's pretty good. What I wanted to ask you though was, what did you think of the guy who played Ric Flair?
It was awful.
I
It was
know,
like it
I
was the
know,
Ric
it was
Flair.
bad.
I feel like is not a hard person to find somebody that can do a good impression of.
Yeah,
Like because he's so boisterous and flamboyant, like over the top. I feel like you could have found somebody a million times better than the guy that they got to play him
what's
because
crazy is that
he was awful.
he was like too over the top that it felt fake. Even though
Yeah.
Ric Flair, I think probably in real life was a bit over the top, but like
Oh yes, 100%.
also like Ric Flair played his role as the over the top kind of
Yeah.
flamboyant
Right.
personality in the ring
Hmm.
really well. Where this guy is like doing a really bad impression of it, and he's going way too
Yes.
ham with it. And
God,
that's what
so
I would
bad.
say is the worst acting performance of the movie. Like
Well,
everybody else
oh
is like
yes,
top
hundred
notch,
percent. He
and
couldn't even
he's the worst.
he couldn't even woo right.
Yeah,
Like his woo, how hard is it to woo?
yeah.
Woo! Like it's not that difficult. Just
It's like seeing
woo.
Ric Flair here on the podcast
Yeah.
with me.
I mean, come on, guys. A woo is not that hard.
Yeah,
Like, but this guy couldn't even woo. And
yeah,
I was just like, that was your spot on worst action. Everybody else, fantastic,
yeah,
except for the guy that impersonated Ric Flair.
yeah.
He was terrible.
Another question: do you think Zac Efron was snubbed at the Oscars? Because that was some of the stuff going around.
I don't know. Dude, I don't keep up with the Oscar. I don't want to even comment on that because I don't know who else won.
Yeah.
I'd have to watch the other movies. I thought he did a fantastic job. I would say
Mhm.
there was probably better performances just knowing the quality of movies that are out there that usually win
Mhm.
Oscars. There
Yeah, I
was
think
probably
Cillian
better.
Murphy won for Best Actor this year
What movie
for
was that?
Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer, yeah.
Okay, see now my issue with that is that's just because the movie's so hyped. I haven't seen Oppenheimer yet, but the movie is so hyped that I feel like anybody that is attached to that movie automatically has a leg up on everybody else.
I agree. I agree.
So
I have seen Oppenheimer. It's well crafted. Like it's hard to say that that movie's not well made or well acted. But yeah,
yeah,
the hype for it is real. So
yeah. So I mean, that's just it is with any big movie like that in Hollywood when they come out, and some of them are genuinely good movies and
mhm.
deserve the praise that they get and deserve the hype. But other ones are just okay movies that are good that are hyped up, and people end up winning undeserved Oscars for them.
Yeah.
It's
And
just
the
it's just Hollywood.
Oscars, in my opinion, are like really good at capturing the movies of the moment, and not
Hmm.
always the best at capturing the movies that like should have won, or the movies that are like still being talked
Yeah,
about that were nominated but didn't win. They typically
yeah,
pick the one that was safer at the time, I think.
yes, that's true. It's a fair point. Fair point.
But
I mean, we can both agree the Oscars are not what they used to be. I think like it's
yeah.
just not. It's just not what it was. So I don't know,
But anyway,
but I don't know.
I thought overall pretty solid film.
Yep.
That leaves a little bit to be desired, but then if it makes you interested in
Yeah.
the Von Erich family, and then that in turn gets you interested in kind of that era of wrestling,
Yeah.
which is what it did for me, then that's probably like one of the major goals was just kind of bringing their
Yeah.
story to the screen in a
Hmm.
way that honored them, and I think for the most part they succeeded, and
I agree.
and didn't
I,
make it, they made it accessible in the midst of like insane sadness and tragedy that has
yeah.
stalked that family, or that did stalk that family for a really long time.
And I think that's always the thing when you're making a sports movie is any kind of sports movie, whether it's a football movie or the good ones
Mm-hmm.
that you'll remember don't show it's not built around the sport, it's built around the characters and the relationships. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, while that's there, the wrestling in this was more just a background. Like it wasn't over,
Mm-hmm.
like it didn't dominate the scenes, which I would have rather it dominate the scene, but I know that's not palatable to the audience. So
Mm-hmm.
that's just, I'm a wrestling fan. But, you know, from sports movies in general, like you don't want the sport to just completely dominate the movie. Like you want it to be, you
Yeah.
want people to get attached to your characters and invest in them and invest in the dialogue and stuff like that. So I thought they did a great job. 10 out of 10 on the depression scale. Um,
Yeah. You're in for it. You're
definitely,
in for it.
definitely one of the one like did not, and maybe that's why it was so bad is because I didn't go in expecting that. Like when I
Mm-hmm.
went in and watched Requiem for a Dream, I knew what I was getting myself into when I watched that movie because you had seen it before I did. And you were like,
Oh.
don't watch this movie because you're going to be depressed for a month. And I was like, whatever. And then no, I went and watched it. I
Yeah.
was depressed for 2 months
Yeah. Yeah.
because, but I knew what I was expecting going into that at least. But with this, no clue. Like, I mean, I knew of the Von Erichs, did not know their family story was this tragic. But yeah, it was crazy. I did enjoy it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll ever watch it again just because it is very depressing.
Yeah. Same. It is like, um, what what you made me think of when you were talking about like wrestling being a backdrop, it like does kind of show what sport can mean to people, and then how that affects their
Hmm.
personal lives, especially if they're dedicating their entire lives to it.
Hmm.
And I would say in like what I really like about like Welcome to Wrexham is it shows like what sport means to an entire community in a very positive
Yes.
way. And
Yes.
what I liked about this movie is that it can show that there can be a bit of a dark side to it, but it's still very meaningful to a lot of people.
Hmm.
Um, but um, but yeah, it is interesting. It's a little thought provoking about what sport means and what it can be. And I never got the sense in this movie that they denigrated wrestling at all. You know what I mean?
No,
Like
it
because
definitely did not.
wrestling does have a reputation of
Hmm.
being staged or faked or whatever. And like this was all treated very like just very seriously, and it like it was their, I mean, it is their livelihood, and they
Hmm.
take that seriously.
Yeah.
And so I do think the wrestling is fake arguments are very reductionary, because like there's a lot that goes into it, and I thought they did a good job of kind of showing like the hierarchical structure of like
Hmm.
how things go, at least at the time, and like what it means for the people that might be a little lower on
Hmm.
the rungs, so to speak.
Yeah.
So I did enjoy that aspect, and like what this means to these people's lives, and like the good and the bad of it.
Hmm.
And I think that they towed that line pretty well. And just to go back to the actors a little bit, man, the physicality and like how in shape Zac Efron and Jeremy Allen White and the guy who played Dave like were, like, and the things that they were doing in the ring, because like I thought the wrestling scenes were good. Like I thought that they did a good job of filming a lot of those things, and you can tell they worked hard to do it,
Hmm.
and I thought that that was portrayed
I
well.
thought I thought the cinematography was great. The
Mm-hmm.
only complaint I had about it, they overdid the sound effects in some of them.
I can
Like
see that. Yeah.
it was very gimmicky, and it's like that's not the way wrestling is. It's like
Yeah.
if the wrestlers do anything, they're just gonna like if they, for instance, if they super kick you, they're gonna slap their leg and make it sound like
Yeah.
their foot, but there's really just their hand slapping. But that wasn't the sound effect that they used,
Yeah.
like in the movie, and it was like with the punches, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, just like all you need is just like it sounds in wrestling ring. When they throw a punch, they stomp the ring with their foot. Like
Yeah.
it's just that's all you need. You don't need any other sound effects for it, and it would
Yeah.
have been a lot more. But they added to it, and I was like, they really didn't need to do that. But the cinematography of it was
Mm-hmm.
fantastic, and like you said, the actors are in incredible shape. I do think Zac Efron was on steroids. I will stand by that
I
fact.
mean, the dude is, he is shaped. Like it is weird.
Yes,
It looks like they sculpted him out of a piece
it
of wood.
it is very weird because like I will not lie, like the wrestlers in like the 80s and early 90s definitely had a very distinct look.
Yeah.
They all looked
Mm-hmm.
a lot, they were all built the same because they were all on freaking steroids.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Zac Efron looked exactly like those people. And
Yeah.
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
probably on steroids. Can't
Yeah.
prove it,
And
but
to your point
you know.
about like the sound design is like, I do agree with you, and that is like the portion of the movie that does leave a little bit to be desired. Like it's not
Mm-hmm.
like, and if wrestling is the reason you're watching, there are like some moments where you get to see kind of like some of the TV spots, and like some of like the
Yeah.
graphics that they use, which is like kind
No,
of
that was so
fun and
cool.
like
Those were
nostalgic.
cool.
But it's
Yeah.
like you said earlier, like that is more of a backdrop, and like a way to get a character forward, which I
Mm-hmm.
think is like good storytelling, but then also it does leave you wanting more wrestling, like
Mm-hmm.
because they did a decent job of showing you
Yeah.
some of the like the graphics and things. So yeah, like it is, that's the balance of the movie, is like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you can watch it for really good performances, and you can watch it for some physicality, and but there just might be like a few things that you're gonna like want more of,
Yeah.
and the movie's really not trying to give that to you. Um,
They're not.
but that's, I would say that's a negative of the movie, not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily like the biggest positive,
Yeah.
even though they
It,
do so many things well.
yeah, but it was already what, like 2 hour, 2.5
Yeah,
hour long movie.
yeah.
So I
It's like,
mean, like I get why they. Is it closer to three? I lost
no,
track of
no,
time.
it's
I don't
just under
know.
2.5. It's like 2 hours and
Just oh,
12 minutes or something.
okay, yeah, because I mean, it was one of those things. Like I like for me, like I said, I'm not their target audience because I love wrestling.
Mm.
So
Yeah, yeah,
I wanted more. Like show me more of the matches. Show me more
hmm,
of like show me him winning the title, which I do think is important that they left that out. That I think you can critique for anybody. But like
yeah,
I definitely wanted more of like the wrestling side of it, and I would have been fine with another 30 minutes of that.
hmm,
But that wouldn't have played well to their audience. And I get that. It's a business at the same time and you're trying to make money. So
yeah,
in overall, good.
Solid,
Couple of
yeah.
things, just nitpick, but overall, good movie.
Yeah.
What rating scale do we want to use this time, Jason? Just do it out of 5 out of 5 body slams
Oh, okay.
being the or
That's hard because there's not half body slams.
we can do five
Suplexes.
5 out of 5 iron claws.
Hey, that's good. Yeah, yeah, because there is like a half-hearted Iron Claw moment that
There
works.
is. Yeah,
And
there's
then
a
there's
half
like an
hour.
over-the-top Iron Claw moment.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think like I want to give it a 4, but right now I'm hanging out in the 3.5 range.
yeah. It's somewhere. I'm gonna go 3,
Yeah,
maybe, just because I wanted more out of the wrestling. But that's just
yeah.
me personally, and that's just like it's in somewhere between. It's that 3.5 range. I
Hmm.
feel like it's
But
like
as a
I don't think you can give
drama,
it a
it's like pretty good. Like it's probably a
yeah
little bit above that, but like in terms of what
the
it
whole thing.
the lasting impression of it, yeah, I would say
Yeah,
it lowers the score a bit.
and then not, and then the fact that it's depressing and you need to get on antidepressants afterwards
Yeah,
is
yeah, yeah.
plays
It's not a
into it.
crowd movie.
No,
It's a tragedy for sure. And I mean, just as it was in real life. So I
yeah,
think they portrayed that really well.
they did. They minus leaving their brother out, but
Yeah, I that is yeah.
that really bothers you, doesn't it?
It does.
I can
It
tell. I can
does.
tell.
Well, because they did pay attention to a lot of things in the movie where they try to get it accurate, and I know that they play with time, and I think that movies just do that. And that doesn't really bother me as much. But like, yeah, you left a whole brother out.
Yeah.
There's a whole other member of this family.
He
I don't
wasn't
know.
at the dinner table. He was never
Yeah,
there. Like,
I feel like it was important. Yeah, because I was thinking through the dad ranking the kids, and like that bothered me for a large part of the movie because I was like, what an asshole, and like I just kept
yeah,
thinking about it, and then I was like Wikipediaing while I was watching. I know that's bad, that's a faux pas, but whatever. And like was counting the kids, and I was like,
they're missing.
he didn't list 6 kids. God, I know, and I do
Oh
think
man.
that like kind of reading some of what like Chris just wanting to be a part of the family and not being able to, and
Hmm.
like how he just also got left out about the movie that I think
Yeah.
does a pretty good job of giving you access to this family and the tragedy that ensued,
Hmm.
and it does bother me. I would,
Yeah.
yeah.
I agree. I agree.
So
It's a travesty they left him out, Jason.
it is. It's ridiculous. But
Um.
I can see the reasoning, and I know it. I think films are like miracles in of themselves to get that many people together dedicated to that kind of cause, to make a movie with the physical elements that this movie needed to be, like, and get really amazing performing actors like
Yeah.
within this type of film. Like I think films are like slight modern day miracles, so I totally get that. But dude, like
You
you
left
left out
somebody
an
out.
entire human person of this story. It's
Oh
not just
man.
like you played with time. Like you just cut
Yeah.
out a dude
You just,
altogether.
he never existed in your universe.
I
Like, just
know.
wasn't there. He was never
Ugh.
born. At least Jack Jr. was born, and then
Yeah.
he showed up at the river, into the river in heaven with them.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. The
and then
yeah. That's
and then
that was a strange
and
scene.
then and then Carrie awkwardly picks him up and hugs him. Like, I was like, this is getting
Yeah.
weird.
That
Like,
is.
okay,
Yeah. Oh, another. I will share one gripe I have with the movie. The way people say each other's names in that family is really weird. Like when the dad first comes out, because it starts out with a flashback, and the dad is like coming out from a wrestling match, and I guess Kevin and Dave are the 2 kids in
yeah.
that moment. Like they're
Well,
kids at that
or
time.
would it be Jack Jr.?
Oh yeah, maybe it was. Yeah, it
I don't
probably
know.
was
I
Dave.
don't know who. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I
I
think you're
don't know what
right.
the
But he comes out and
would.
like his kids come
Yeah.
at him and he's just like, "Oh, hello, Jack. Oh, and hello to you too, Kevin." And then he like picks him up, and I'm like, maybe they were showing that because the parents are kind of weird and emotionally unavailable,
Yeah.
and like, but like it just the way everybody says each other's names is like they met them for the first time, and
Yeah.
it happens throughout the film. Like it's just the way people greet each other. The way it would be like every time I'm on the podcast and I address you, I'm like, "Well, Daniel, you do know that in this movie they left Chris out," and how like it would be like I did that a dozen times throughout the
Yeah.
last 50 minutes. Like it just that I felt that was a little jarring as well. So,
It was.
but anyway, I didn't mean to end on a gripe. I mean, I do think the movie is really well made. So
Yeah.
I'll end on that. Go watch
And
it.
yeah, go watch it. Definitely go watch it. I don't feel like my telltale sign of if a movie like at the end of it is like, did I waste my time watching this movie?
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't. I don't feel like I wasted my time watching it.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
it wasn't the greatest movie ever, but it wasn't by far by any
Yeah.
means the worst movie I've ever seen either. So it was just a good movie. Good
Yeah.
movie. So, all right, Jason. I guess we'll be back later this week
Yeah.
with another movie review for a little more humorous,
Yeah.
less depressing movie, Ready to Rumble, the 2000 loose WCW based wrestling
my
movie,
God.
which is a complete opposite of this movie. So
Yeah.
tune in for that. Later this week. Jason, tell us people where they can find us.
We're on Substack. We're on X. We are on YouTube. If you're watching us on there, thank you. If you're not, what are you doing? Like, I know you're listening to the podcast. Thanks a lot. But we're on YouTube. If you're listening to us on the podcast, give us a rating wherever you're listening to us. Daniel will tell you.
Yeah.
We will be watching it, or where you can find us in a minute. But like, also if you're on YouTube, like and subscribe. Hit that subscribe button and the bell so you always know we're here. Am I doing this correctly? Influence.
We influence you.
Ooh. Yeah, anyway, whatever. I don't care. I'm glad you watched. If you want to keep watching, we're going to keep doing this, whether you like it or not. So
That's true. That's true.
You can deal with it. But and if you deal with it positively, then like or subscribe and hit that button. Okay, I'm done. I ran that into the ground. But yeah, we're on X, Substack, and YouTube. Daniel does amazing things over at X and Substack at RedWhiteBlues FC. Check it out down below.
Yep, it is down below. Check us out. We are on Spotify and Apple, not Amazon.
Didn't say Amazon.
We're not there. I didn't say Amazon this week.
I tried not to say it in the previous thing so that you would say it, so I didn't spoil it for you. But
oh man, no, I didn't say it this week. I know. Thank you, sir. Thank you. But yeah, Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast at. Like Jason said, give us a 5-star review because we're chasing clout. We want to be your main Chelsea people, even though this isn't a Chelsea episode. We want to be the people that you turn to for your Chelsea match reviews. That's right. But we're going to do it different. That's right.
Circle it. I don't know.
I don't have
this.
I don't have a badge to kiss. I'm not one.
Anyway, I'll point to it. I'll poke it.
I don't know.
Boop.
Yep.
Open the badge.
Yeah, but check us out.
I don't know, man.
Hey, it is what it is, man.
I told you I was gonna be weird tonight.
It's a weird one. But yeah, tune in for our next episode where we'll review. We'll give you another international movie break. Oh, but we will throw a little Chelsea stuff at the end. We will be giving you a match prediction for was it Burnley? Is that who we play this weekend? I think I don't even Burnley. I don't even know. Maybe that's who we play. Maybe that's not who we play. I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, tune in to the next episode. And until then, we'll catch you guys on the flip side.
Are you gonna hit the?
You gotta. I said we're gonna catch you guys on the flip side. And then you gotta say.
Oh my God! I was just waiting for
the. That's staying in the video. We're gonna rewind this back right. Jason did say it was gonna get weird tonight.
Yeah.
So
set me up again. Yeah.
Take 2.
This is
so until next time. Oh yes, 100% staying in because we don't have time to edit anything. So, until next time, guys, we'll catch you on the flip side.
Wrestling's not fake. Flippity floppity.